Hi, Anchal. Maybe can we wait for another 2 to 3 minutes because I see that attendees are just joining.
Yes, yes.
So just to let you know, we had like 250 people who registered for this webinar.
Yes, Ancha mentioned that before.
So
That's
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 pretty
very
good.
successful.
Yeah, but then let's see.
Turnout.
Normally we have 30% turnout. So I'm hoping we'll
Mm,
hit around 70 or 80. And we already have 56, 57 now. So maybe another 2 minutes and then we'll get
yes.
going. Okay, so we have all the speakers here. Okay.
So I think we'll begin shortly, and while we wait, participants should feel free to share their names, organizations, and where they are joining from in the chat.
It's good. We have 66 people. Anshul, maybe we can start.
Sure. Yes. So very good afternoon, everyone. I'm Anshul Chadha, consultant with the Technology Roadmap and Policy Unit of the International Solar Alliance. I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all the participants and panelists who are joining us for the Solar Compass Global Webinar Series on integrated PV applications. Solar Compass is a flagship knowledge initiative of the International Solar Alliance, and it's conceived as ISA's global R&D thought leadership platform. Through Solar Compass, ISA seeks to bring cutting edge research from across the member countries and global partners into a shared space that connects laboratories with markets, innovators with policymakers, and ideas with actions. And today's webinar is a part of its global webinar series on integrated PV applications, which is a two-part series designed to translate research from the Solar Compass special issue into practical and deployable insights. Today's session is part one of the series that focuses on solar for food, water, and landscapes, covering agrivoltaics, floating PV, and rural solar applications. In the meantime, I'll just share my screen if you can confirm if my screen is visible. Yeah, Dr. Colleen, could you please confirm if my screen is
It
visible?
is visible. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Anshul.
So, yeah, the session 2 will be on 22nd May. That will explore PV applications for infrastructure, industry, urban systems, and energy resilience. So, to know more about Solar Compass and to share the vision behind our upcoming special issue, it is my pleasure to invite Dr. Gurleen Kaur, who is the Technology and Solar Specialist at the International Solar Alliance. Over to you, Dr. Gurleen.
Thank you so much, Anshul, and a very good afternoon and good morning to all of you who joined us from across the globe. I will quickly share my screen. Are you able to see my screen, everyone?
Yes, yes, we can.
Oh, great. So, firstly, thank you for joining us from all parts of the globe. And it is a pleasure at our end to welcome you to the first of the two-part webinar series that we are organizing as a Solar Compass special R&D series. This webinar series is for integrated PV, as Anshul mentioned. But before we move into that, I will go into what solar compass is and what is it that we are trying to achieve via this. So Solar Compass was conceived in the year 2021-2022, and the idea here is to focus directly on mitigation strategies and speeding up the deployment of solar energy technologies and aiding the world in reaching carbon neutrality by the mid-century. So till now, we have had 5 special issues, and integrated PV issue is one of them. So this is one of the foremost journals that we have, which is led by Global South, and the aim is to also focus on the applications in Global South. In 2026, we led to a strategic expansion, and we have a global editorial board. I am very happy to share that this global editorial board is led by Professor Michael Leung from Hong Kong Technological University, who's the editor-in-chief of the journal and also one of the speakers today. Thank you, Michael, for joining us for this webinar series as well. And this year, we've also put across the Solar Compass Hall of Fame, which means as a part of the 2026 series, we are going to really reward Best Reviewer Awards this year, and also we'll put out a top 3 Best Paper Awards across the entire journal for people who have submitted and have had high impact contributions in the journal. So you will hear more about the integrated PV applications throughout this session, but I would also like to highlight our next call for paper for the year 2026. This is a special issue on field reliability for PV modules, plants in the Global South. So the idea of this issue is to put focus on field degradation of modules, plants, balance of systems, reliability of emerging PV technologies, field diagnostic and data-driven operations, and also the reuse and recycling of PV modules based on field experience. And ultimately to highlight the strategies to enhance PV reliability, performance forecasting in Global South. So this would cover all the sides of this technology, be it analysis, the technology focused areas, maintenance, and sustainability of PV plants as well as modules as a whole. Yeah. So here is the scope of the special issue. As I mentioned, field reliability, degradation rates, modes and mechanisms, and evidence-based accelerated testing, and ultimately international standards development.
Sorry to interrupt, Dr. Gulin. Could you please check your microphone? People are writing that they cannot hear you properly.
Am I audible now? Wait.
Now we are not. We cannot hear you, Dr. Gulin. You're not audible, Dr. Gulin.
Okay.
Now you are.
Okay, that's great. The interest of time, you've already seen the stellar editorial team, and I would request you all to please submit your papers to this special issue. And the deadline, the last date for submitting the papers is 31st of May. So we'll request you all to please help us shape the future of solar with your inputs, the R&D inputs in this journal. So looking forward to receive all the applications from you. Thank you so much. And that's all from my end.
Thank you, Dr. Gulin, for setting the stage and welcoming everyone. Now, we are honored to have a special address from Professor Michael Yang, who is the Chair Professor of Renewable Energy at City University of Hong Kong, and who is also the Editor-in-Chief of the Solar Compass. Professor Yang, over to you.
Okay. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
And also good morning and good evening to all our esteemed participants joining us from around the world. I am Michael Leung, Editor-in-Chief of Solar Compass. It is my distinct honor to deliver a special address for this pivotal webinar hosted by the International Solar Alliance. Today, we embark on the exploration of integrated photovoltaic applications with a focus on agrivoltaics, floating PV, and rural solar innovations, areas that hold immense promise for transforming our landscapes, food system, and water management practices. These technologies exemplify the innovative spirit driving the global transition towards sustainable energy solutions. The Solar Compass special issues on integrated PV applications launched during the 2025 ISA Assembly serve as a beacon for this initiative, highlighting groundbreaking research and fostering collaboration across borders. As Editor-in-Chief, I am committed to ensuring that Solar Compass remains a dynamic platform for disseminating knowledge, sparking innovation, and nurturing collaboration among researchers, practitioners, and policymakers. The papers featured in this webinar showcase the diversity and depth of research in integrated PV applications, from a comprehensive review of agrivoltaics and photovoltaics with a focus on India's potential, to comparative analysis of bifacial and monofacial floating PV system in the UK. These studies illuminate the global landscape of solar innovation. Additionally, insights into agrivoltaics demonstration site studies and strategic decision-making models for crop selections in agri-PV further reinforce the importance of interdisciplinary approaches in advancing our shared goals. As Gulin mentions, I would also like to highlight that integrated PV application is one of our successful special issues of Solar Compass. We have also published other special issues on topical subjects. I encourage you to explore our regular issues, which cover a broad range of new technology development ready for commercialization, policy and economic advancements to increase access, manufacturing upscale effort to reduce cost, and successful case studies about solar energy from around the world. Again, thank you for joining us in this webinar. I look forward to an enlightening exchange that will unfold today. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Yang. So a quick housekeeping note for everyone. You may post your questions anytime in the Q&A chat, and please mention the speaker's name or the paper title. So we'll take all the audience questions together at the end of the author presentations in a pooled Q&A segment. So please keep adding questions as you think of them. We'll be curating and grouping them towards the end while the speakers present. With that, let's begin our author's presentation. Just allow me to share my screen. I hope it's visible. Our first presentation is on crop selection in agri-PV, international review-based strategic decision-making model. We are joined by Dr. Kedar Mehta, who is the head of the department at the International Energy Research Institute. Dr. Mehta, you will have about 10 to 15 minutes for your presentation, and we'll take all the questions in the pooled Q&A segment in the end. Over to you, Dr. Mehta.
Thank you very much. Can you allow me to share my screen?
Yes, sure.
Okay, yeah, now I can do that. Thank you. I hope the screen is visible and the audio is also fine for everybody. And I can start the presentation now. So good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everybody. I'm happy to be part of this webinar where I would like to discuss with you about one of the most important or the critical aspect about the crop selection in agri-photovoltaic system and the decision-making model we have been developed. So you are more than welcome to review the full paper, but as the presentation will go only for 15 minutes, I try to highlight the key aspects. In following minutes, I would like to talk with you about three major let's say topic, introduction to agri-photovoltaics, what is the problem and motivation behind this research, and what was that whole decision-making model we are talking about. So let's start with the introduction to agri-PV. I think most of you are aware with this, one of these emerging integrated photovoltaic application called agri-photovoltaics, where you are trying to combine the traditional farming with this electricity generation from the PV panels installed there. So you can see the traditional farming. This is how our farm look like. Or you see in the second picture, the ground mounted solar PV plant. But if you combine both to utilize the land, use efficiency, it's called agri PV concept. So you are doing the crop or the farming on the same land while producing the electricity from the photovoltaic panels. Maybe to give you a more specific idea, this term agrivoltaic represent the dual use of land for both crop production and solar energy generation, as I mentioned. This is how one of the real picture from one of these agri PV farm from our Germany's industry partners. So you see the solar panels on the top. On the elevated structure, you can grow the crop below the panel, and there is some shading effects coming. So this is what that whole technology is about. However, this technology has some design challenges. Not all crops are suitable for this agri-photovoltaics technology. So how to deal with that? So let's look at the problem first. What exactly the problem? So this is the simple diagram to explain the project, the problem. So from the solar irradiation, 400 nanometer to 700 nanometer, this is the spectrum which is utilized by these plants to do the photosynthetic activities. However, when we install the agri-photovoltaics, we are putting extra layer between the plant and coming solar rays or irradiation that creates some reduced irradiation for the plant, and that whole photosynthetic activity for the plant got affected. This means not all crops are suitable for agri-PV because some of the crop or each crop require a suitable light threshold to grow. If there is a higher or lower light, that significantly change the plant growth. And shade tolerant crops such as leafy greens, herbs, berries, these are the crops they would like to grow within the shadow because they can't withstand the higher temperature. But there are several crops such as cotton, rice, or wheat. They would like to grow within the higher irradiation or solar light, I would say. So they call as a sun-loving crops. So to resolve this, there are several aspects from the design perspective. So for example, I think most of you will be aware about, let's say, this full or high density solar PV design where you try to put the solar panels within the short distance between rows. So there will be you try to provide, let's say, a less, or let's say higher shading or less sunlight coming to your crop. In order to increase, let's say, more sunlight, people are also using, let's say, this semi-transparent module, let's say with transparency of 20% or 30% or 40%, in order to increase the solar light towards the crop. Or there is also a very famous or very well accepted agri-PV typology available, which is called half density or low density, where you try to reduce the number of panels or increase the distance between two rows significantly in order to grow the crop between panels and welcoming more sunlight. However, the problem is these are, let's say, the decision making towards the agri-PV design or typology, but there are only few papers talks about, let's say, the crop selection, how crop grows within this region area under which kind of panels, and that completely change the I would say the crop yield. So here I just try to summarize some real world example from the existing study from the literature. Of course, this value depends on the local condition, design, and how they are managing the farm. But for example, you see this is the yield change between different crops. So crops you see on x-axis: lettuce, tomato, potato, wheat, corn. 0 here is the baseline. So where you see the red line is the baseline, whatever above that red line, where crop got a very positive response or in the yield when there were agri-PV plant was installed. And when you see anything below red line where crop was negatively affected because of this agri-PV shedding. And you see there are some shed tolerant crops where the yield goes up to 30%, or there are also some crops where yield goes up to minus 20%. And that leads to a question that how to select the suitable crop for agri-PV system, because if crop will be affected negatively, then there will be economical disadvantage to farmers, and there will be not enough benefit we can bring out from this wonderful technology. So this leads us to develop this decision-making model. I will quickly present that. So this is the operational methodology for this decision-making model we developed. So we perform the international review and take real-life examples, which is, let's say, the agri-PV plant from 25 countries, which are highlighted in yellow on the on the red on this the screen you see. Then these studies were assessed, and then we developed the crop typology and checked the agri-PV suitability. So what you see here in this circle, these are the common crop typology. So grass, leafy greens, herbs, berries, root crops, vegetables, fiber crops, cereals, fruit trees, and we collect what kind of, for example, fruit trees or oil seed crops are globally grown under the agri-PV from that real life examples, and try to understand their behavior and check the agri-PV suitability with the 4 different aspects. First of all, how yield was changed when agri-PV was installed of this one of these, let's say, herbs or berries, whether these plants are shed tolerant or not, what are the water requirement for these crops, and what are the space requirement for these crops. For example, most of the sun-loving crops like wheat, cotton, they need really a huge land to grow. While if you talk about herbs or strawberries or berries, they need a very compact land because they are the high value crops. And then within that, you can, from the small land, you can get a better benefit or output. So for farmers and the decision makers, we try to come up with, let's say, the 3 dimension, which is yield, space, and water requirement, and the shade as well. And then within that dimension and the crop typology, we check this AgriPV suitability based on the results available, and then develop this crop suitability matrix, which I will call as a version 1.0, because we are working on the what version 2.0 or advanced version to enhance this. But let me quickly explain to you how it works. So low, medium, and high. You see these three color: low red, medium yellow, and high is the green color. On x-axis here, you see the shed tolerance. So water requirement is on x-axis, and the secondary y-axis, you see the yield or economic potential for the farmers. And we try to space this different crop typology, which I showed you in the previous slide, in terms of the suitability metrics. So for example, leafy greens are more into suitability range or higher suitability compared to cereals or oil seeds, where agri-PV suitability is low. Or fruits, for example, or herbs or medical plants, where water requirement is low. However, the shed tolerance is a high, which means we can install the agri-PV plant on the top, where shed will be available, and the medical plant will grow nicely because they are shed tolerant. At the same time, they give us a very high yield under agri-PV suitability based on the real life example. And there will be higher economic potential as well because the yield is higher. For example, if we talk about cereals, for example, or like wheat, where you need a higher water requirement, they are not very shade tolerant, or they love to grow under sun. They don't grow very well in the, I would say, the shade, and this is why they are in the red here. And then agri-PV suitability here for this crop is not so well documented in terms of positive growth on a global literature review, and this is how you see that. And the different bubble size shows that the space requirement for that crop growth. Okay, so I think this is how the decision making model we propose to support the agri-PV suitability for different crops, or how to select the crop when you are designing the agri-PV system for your farm or for your home country, or different weather condition, or in different climate conditions, I would say. Of course, you need to read the whole paper to understand how it was developed, what kind of crops we consider under each typology or crop typology mentioned here, and which countries we selected. So of course, I did not put all these things here, but that leads you to read a whole paper on this special issue. Key takeaways are listed here. So crop selection is very critical for agri-PV success. There is no universal crop which depends on climate and system design. So you really need to design this agri-PV which suited better to crop. There is a yield variation noted from -30 to up to 90% on the global literature review, as well as this real life example. As I mentioned, leafy greens, herbs, and berries are very well suited with this agri-PV, while oilseed or such sun-loving crops are not very nicely performed under agri-PV. Of course, if you change the design, that change the whole equation. Agri-PV system design, that change the equation here. Based on that, we consider 117 studies from 25 countries to develop this crop selection matrix, which supports the existing data-driven decision making. Future research, if you are interested to develop something more, or well to add the value here, this was on this literature review from the global case studies, but you can also go with this experimental setup. There is no dynamic factor consideration like what was the PV configuration, soil condition, or climate variability, because we would like to give a very generalized idea about how to select the crop for agri-PV system design. So there is a need to do the real world validation or experimental validation, I would say, because these were already studies from the experimental study or world level studies. But we need to validate this crop selection metrics with the real world again. Economic analysis we did not consider here, and there were not all the data we just consider, or all the countries we were considered here for to develop this experiment, this crop selection metrics. But this could be definitely a next move, and this is we are already working on this to develop this crop selection metrics 2.0 or version 2.0, which could be you see in one of the next special issue at the Solar Compass. So with that, thank you very much for your attention. I'm open to question and answer session when this will happen. And thank you once again to ISA for providing this opportunity to talk about this special issue and this article. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mehta, for your presentation. It was indeed very informative and insightful. So the audience has few questions for you, but we'll take them right after all the presentations. Let's move to our next presentation. That is on the review of agrivoltaic demonstration, site studies with comparable configurations for a UK-based application. This is to be presented by Ms. Shenza Neda Hussain. Ms. Shenza, over to you.
Sure. So let me share my screen with you. Are you guys able to share, see my screen?
Not
Hello?
currently.
Let me know when you are able to now.
It's still loading for me. I cannot view your screen.
Okay. Let me know when the loading is, or I think you do have my screen, my slides as well, right?
So Anchal, can you
Yeah,
please
let
share
me
the
just share that.
yeah.
Do confirm once you're able to view that.
So we are able to see the screen, Anchal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Anshul, I'll just ask you to press enter to change the slides. Is that fine?
Sure, sure.
Okay. So good morning, everyone, and thank you to Solar Campus and the International Alliance for inviting to speak on global webinar on integrated PV application. I'm Shanzanida Hussain, and today I'll be sharing our review on agrivoltaics demonstration site study and what they can tell us about UK ready design. This talk is about a broader picture. It's not about just UK based. Based on this study, you can have like for other regions as well, other locations as well. So next slide, please. I will start with the motivation for agrivoltaics in the UK and then explain the agrivoltaics concept itself, how the field has developed internationally. After that, I will outline the review methodology and present the scoring matrix that we developed for this. The overall message is simple. Integrating PV is most useful when evidence from different regions is carefully filtered for local relevance. This is what in this review we have done for UK context. Next slide, please. And next, the UK has around 17 million hectares of utilized agricultural area, but only over 6 million hectares are croppable. Enter, please. At the same time, the UK solar sector is expanding rapidly with capacity of around 15.6 gigawatt, and there is a national target of 70 gigawatt by 2030. Enter, please. This creates a land use challenge. Enter. Uh, to balance energy generation and agriculture So, enter please. Agrivoltaics offers a way to generate solar electricity while retaining agricultural land. So it can help reduce competition between energy and food production, which is actually a major problem all across the world. Next slide, please. Agrivoltaics or APV combines agriculture. Enter, please. Please go on entering right now. Agrivoltaics or APV combines agriculture and photovoltaic on the same land area. Agriculture is not replaced by solar but is integrated with it through a shared design. The concept itself dates back to 1981 in Germany, where the first time this concept was proposed and later on it was adopted. Next, please. So, Um, this timeline shows how the field has developed over time. Though the first publication came in 1981, but the first installation was done in 2004 in Japan, which was a milestone. And later on, the milestone included the large setups in Europe, early policy support, and major growth in China and other countries. A particularly important point was that in 2021, global installation of agrivoltaic capacity reached 14 gigawatts. In 2024, our group was the first one to investigate the potential of agrivoltaics in the UK context, which was never done and is still at a really early stage. Next slide, please. So, next, please. This slide shows with the increase of solar electricity generation, the LCOE has decreased over time. Enter, please. This graph, the other graph, shows two growth trends. First, the number of agrivoltaics related publication increased sharply over last decade. Second, global electricity, especially the solar electricity generation, also raised rapidly over the same period. The important takeaway is that agrivoltaics is moving from a niche idea into much broader renewable energy conservation. That makes it especially important to identify that the system is just not interesting in theory but can actually be transferable to practical UK condition. Next slide, please. So this slide shows how the yeah. So this slide shows for the review itself, we use a schematic search strategy based on agrivoltaics, agrivoltaics, agri-photovoltaics, solar sharing, and dual land use. Enter, please. We included peer-reviewed papers, books, and conference literature. Enter. However, we found no formal UK-based demonstrative study has been published yet. Enter. Based on the available literature, we excluded studies that were non-demonstrative or enter clearly too different from UK condition. Enter, please. Then filtering our data, enter.
Shazia?
Yeah, hello?
Shanza, are you able to hear me?
Yes, I'm able to hear you.
Yes. Are you able to see your screen? Because what we see is we see the last slide of the presentation, which is any question slide.
Okay. No, not this slide. Can you please
can you
go
please
to
go
the
behind? Yeah. I think it's not in
behind.
sync.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go a bit more behind. The scoring matrix. A bit
Yeah.
behind. One more. Yeah. Two more. Again, go behind. Yeah, this one. Okay.
Yes. Great. Thank you.
Just before this, please. Just before that. Yeah, this one.
Yes. Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
My pleasure. Okay. So, just so the after we included everything, we found there were actually around more than 560 literature which were available, but only 10 of those studies were the ones which could be applied for UK when we considered all the literatures based on conference papers and the peer-reviewed papers, and we considered things like solar yield, system design, agricultural design, and agricultural details, and if any additional benefits were reported. Now, can you please move to next slide? So based on that, the scoring matrix was designed to compare studies consistently. Each study was assessed across and scored providing between 0 to 5. This is useful because not all agrivoltaic studies reported the same type of information. Some are strong on engineering details, while the other are strong on agricultural outcome. The matrix helped us to judge which paper are more helpful for the UK-facing design decision. Next slide, please. The standardized rubrics makes this evaluation more transparent. So based on that, we found which study was good, average, or really poorly reported. One important result is that many studies were only average in terms of reporting completeness. This does not mean the system were inefficient. It means the evidence is uneven, which makes careful screening essential because using it to justify UT demonstrative model is not simple as it sounds. Next slide, please. So the selected study came from 4 different countries, mainly Germany, France, Belgium, and South Korea. These are useful because they represent temperate or moderately comparable climate condition rather than highly tropical environment like that of India or Africa. The crop system presented were also diverse, included cereals, horticulture, grazing livestock, greenhouse crops, and ornamental plants. At the same time, the studies reported a range of design variables such as panel height, tilt, orientation, row spacing, and panel technology, all of which matter for UK feasibility. Next slide, please. So a few configuration patterns stood out across all the studies. Many demonstrative sites use bifacial PV panels, which is important because they can capture reflective light and may improve total energy yield depending on site layout. A typical panel height was about 4 meters, which made sense because farm machinery still needs to pass underneath it in many systems. Also, south-facing orientation and tilt angle of about 20 to 30 degrees were also quite common. And some studies explored more novel approaches such as concrete-free foundation, vertical bifacial systems, and tracking system. Next slide, please. The main findings were mixed but informative. Some systems reduced yield while some had neutral effect, while others improved crop performance depending on crop type, shading level, and management strategy. So in particularly study 3 reported 10% increase in the crop production, while several studies showed benefits like microclimate regulation, crop protection from adverse conditions, thus improving the crop quality. Also, which was interesting was because of this system, there was a reduced water loss. There was a reduced water loss in form of reduced soil moisture loss and evapotranspiration loss, which actually reduce the irrigation required for these plants. Several studies also reported LER above 1. LER is basically a matrix to quantify land use efficiency. So if the LER is above 1, then the land use efficiency is better. So in study 1, several crops reported LER above 1.7, while study 3 reported LER 1.51. However, study 7 found that the LER value up to 1.4 was there for tracking system. Next slide, please. The economic potential of agrivoltaics in the UK is high, with the recent study suggesting that 55% of the land in Great Britain alone is suitable for agrivoltaics. According to studies, this system is between 185% to 243% more profitable in the UK compared to monoculture system, which is practiced all over the world mainly. While an average LCOE of 0.05 pounds per kilowatt hour was estimated for fixed tilt bifacial setup across the country, amongst the top performing top performing comparable studies, which were study 1, 3, and 8, LER ranged between 1.47 to 1.71 for potatoes, which highlights the viability of the dual land use solution. Next slide, please. The challenge then is not whether agrivoltaics is interesting. It clearly is. That can be seen. But how to translate international examples into UK deployment decision. The major unanswered questions are about crop, system design, geometry, local climate response, and long-term farm management compatibility. This is the best practice study and lesson from abroad which can be applied to the places which do not have the system in present or which have diverse climatic condition and needs different types of setup at different location, which is not feasible at currently because of the investment restraints. They inform the design of the UK pilot scale demonstration where evidence can be built under local condition rather than assumed from somewhere else. So the next slide, please. So the take-home message are agrivoltaics can improve land use efficiency while also offering microclimatic and economic benefit. International demonstration studies also provide credible guidelines for UK agrivoltaics design if they are filtered carefully and compatibly. Finally, the UK now needs a pilot-scale demonstrative project to generate its own evidence base. This is the key transition point, moving from imported evidence to local validated implementation. Next slide, please. I would like to acknowledge Solar Campus for publishing our work and the International Solar Alliance for organizing this webinar. I would also like to thank University of Exeter for supporting the research and UKRI for the initial grant that helped us to make this work possible. Most importantly, I would be grateful to my co-authors and contributors to this review. And that's it. I hope I'm within my time limit.
Yes, Shanza. Thank you for that presentation. So the questions and answers will be taken up towards the end, right after our last presentation for the day. That is on, let me just share my screen. Yes. So our last presentation for the day is on comparative analysis of bifacial and monofacial FPV system in the UK. It is to be presented by Mohammed Al Mandhari. Yes, Mr. Mandhari, you can share your screen.
Yes, hello. I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes, you're audible.
Is my screen,
Yes.
can you see my screen?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, perfect. So today I'm going to discuss our work on comparative analysis of bifacial and monofacial FPV system in the UK. It is from the Integrated Renewable Focus on Solar Building and Hydrogen Energy group in the University of Exeter, and I'm a research associate there. And thank you for Solar Compass and International Alliance for organizing this webinar. In this presentation, I'm going to introduce the study, focus on the research gap, and then discuss how we did the work, and then the results, and then the conclusion. So the main aim was to experimentally assess the performance of advantage of bifacial panels over monofacial panels in the FPV floating PV context in the UK climate. So why are we focusing on floating photovoltaic? So the conventional inland photovoltaics face the issue of land scarcity. We don't have enough land to build the PV on. And also there's a very competing land for different projects. For example, some land is needed for wind projects, other needs for other projects. So there's a huge need for land, and it's very scarce. And also there are some technical limitations with inland photovoltaics, such as the increasing temperatures. So when using floating photovoltaics, we we can utilize water bodies, which is a good alternative to inland PV. And also there are some natural cooling effects from the water. And there is also an enhanced energy production. So what was the motivation behind the study? There was no UK experimental data that compares bifacial and monofacial panels. So it's important because bifacial panels, which produce power from both sides, are gaining traction in the market. So it's important to understand their effect and how better are they. So our main objectives were to compare bifacial and monofacial, evaluate the thermal performance of the panel, and evaluate electrical performance like the yield and the efficiency. So moving on to our experimental setup. So as we can see, we have two panels at the same time. So this is the one of the panels. So we have in both setups we have a thermocouple attached to measure the temperature, an irradiance meter to measure the irradiance, and
Sorry to cut you in between, Mr. Mandhari. Can you be a little louder? The audience cannot hear you properly.
Okay, sorry. So as you can see in the experimental setup, we have the panel and we have some thermocouples attached to it to measure the temperature, and also some irradiance meter to measure the irradiance at that time. And we have an IV tracer, which is basically to plot the current and voltage at each time interval, and some data logger and obviously a laptop to measure the data to store the data. And an important note to mention, this was done for 4 days in the summer, 4 same days for both setups. So I would like to introduce a key metric, which is the bifacial gain. So it essentially tells us how much extra energy is captured from the rear side due to the panel being bifacial compared to a monofacial panel. I can now move on to the results. So this graph shows the relationship between irradiance. It shows the relationship between irradiance and the top surface temperature. So then temperature at the top of the panel. So as we can see for both panels, the temperature is increasing with the increasing irradiance, which is expected. Then moving on to the next plot. This plot shows us the temperature differential. So the difference between the top and bottom of the panels, the difference between temperature, and the axis we have the solar irradiance. So the finding we have here is bifacial panels have improved thermal behavior because it can distribute the heat better, and also especially in high irradiance. The next graph we have is the PV power output in contrast with the solar irradiance. So, as expected, but bifacial panels have a higher power output, especially at the higher irradiance level. And also, therefore, it has a higher maximum power observed compared to the monofacial panel. The next graph is comparing the efficiency of the two panels with the irradiance. So the finding was that bifacial panels achieve higher efficiency, particularly from the moderate to high irradiance. So in all aspects, until now, bifacial panels are performing better. Now, talking about the bifacial gain, which I introduced a while before, the bifacial gain is highest at low irradiance, and it decreases with as irradiance increases. So the the maximum benefit of the bifacial panels is found at low irradiance, which is expected because we have less direct irradiance of sunlight, and there will be more reflection at low irradiance. So bifacial gain performs better at low irradiance. It gives us the maximum gain at that time. So to conclude, the study proved that at UK temperature and at the summer, 4 days in the summer, bifacial panel has had improved thermal behavior compared to monofacial panel. Secondly, bifacial panel achieved higher maximum power output at the highest irradiance. Thirdly, bifacial panels showed higher efficiency compared to monofacial, around 6% improvement. And also, the efficiency is a consequence of reflected irradiance from the water being harnessed, which is not being done in the monofacial setup. Thank you. I would like to acknowledge Solar Compass for publishing the work, and also International Solar Alliance, and also University of Exeter for supporting the research, and also UKRI for the research grant. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mandhari, and to all our speakers. We'll now move to the next segment, that is the pooled question and answer segment. Let me just compile all the questions. I think, Dr. Mehta, most of the questions are directed to you. Allow me to share my screen so that you can address them. Yes.
In the meantime, I'll request all speakers to please turn on their cameras.
Yeah, I hope my screen is visible.
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Mandhari, I hope you're able to see the questions which are directed to you.
Yes.
Unfortunately, my camera is still not working properly, so I might not be able to do that.
That's okay, Ms. Shanza. Yes, Dr. Mehta, the very first question is, what are the PV agri possibilities based on weather conditions in African countries?
Yeah, I think there is no, I would say, like a very clear answer that, yeah, this is the high possibility, low possibility. But in general, you need to design the things in a systematic order in order to take the maximum advantage of the similar land where we would like to use the agricultural plus the photovoltaic electricity generation. And this is why, in general, yes, if it is a good climate, if a good agricultural activity is ongoing, and if the things are favorable, we can think about the agri-PV deployment in Africa. There are several other papers of mine available online where you can see the how we work about agri-PV in Africa. For example, I'm working right now in agri-PV piloting plant in Tunisia as well as Namibia. So in general, yes, there is some potential available about agri-PV in Africa. So I think that's the answer of the first question, and we need to design that in by considering various aspects as we just show in the presentation.
Great. So the next question to you is the soil type also a key factor to consider when selecting crops for agri-PV systems?
Even if you select agri-PV system or not, soil type is one of the key aspects for the crop selection, because certain crops only grows or have a favorable results in a certain soil type. So it doesn't matter if you are doing agri-PV or not. You need to consider the soil type first thing. And yes, with the shedding effect on the soil, there will be some, based on the soil type, the moisture effect of the soil will be varying. So this is very important aspect we need to consider when we design the agri-PV system or the crop selection.
Also, how do you think the baseline of the yield is derived? And was the study done simultaneously with control crops?
I think this question is about the chart I showed. I read in the Q&A session. Yes, I think most of the studies were compared to the control, and then the study reported that, like, for example, the tomatoes or strawberries growth or yield was 30% higher compared to the control, and this is how I did derive that chart. But there is no, I think that chart was compiled with the several literature or the real life case studies. So there is no, I would say the similar chart is available. I tried to combine that information to demonstrate it.
All right. And is the crop matrix open to all for the access? That is also one of the questions from the audience.
Yeah, this special issue published with the ISA and Solar Compass is open for all, and then you can access anytime from anywhere. The full paper is available. I think Dr. Gurlin already sent the link of the special issue to the chat. Just find it. I will also post it once again, so you just find the paper.
Yeah. So one more question for you, Dr. Mehta. If there's any study of cost benefit analysis for different crops for different climatic zones in India?
I would say not like on a vastly or majorly available. I think that there are several studies available, mainly in a European context, especially when it comes to economic side. For India, I think this technology is more into pilot zone or pilot mode, I would say, and this is why there are not so strong studies available about economics of agri-PV compared to ground-mounted agri-PV, or economics with the crop benefits. Yeah, so that's not. I would say that could be the next research line or future work.
All right. And what do you think are the necessary measures that need to be taken into consideration for seeds imported from another region in order for them to be successfully cultivated?
For that, we really need to understand the crop growth model in that particular climatic zone or climatic condition, because agri-PV will also create a microclimate with the shading available. So we really need to understand the crop growth model or simulate that, but there is no answer available that it will work or it will not work. There will be some investigation needed. Yeah.
All right, Dr. Mehta. I think the next question is directed to Ms. Shenza. Yeah, Ms. Shenza, I
Yes.
hope you are listening. Yeah. Is it possible to install the panels at 80% of the required tilt angle to allow some sunlight to reach the crops and minimize shadow effects, but with lower energy generation?
Yes, it is possible. So some countries, especially Japan, they have this regulation like 80% of the crop has to be, like the yield has to be sustained. It cannot grow below 80% from the monoculture system, which is open field. So it is possible, but it has to be designed according to the location, according to the latitude, the climatic condition, and the crop which is growing over there. So it is possible.
Great. And now another question directed to you, Mr. Mandhari. What do you think is the comparable advantage of bifacial over monofacial solar PVs in terms of cost and power output?
As time moves forward, bifacial are prices are going down. They're still a bit more expensive than monofacial, but it's a trade-off between having having more power, having higher efficiency at the cost of paying more. And also a factor is the location. So the location you plan to install the panels, is it having a high reflectiveness? Because if not, there is no much use of using bifacial panels. So it depends on the location, and it depends on the users or on the engineer's plan and what trade-off is he willing to accept.
All right. And another question for you is, for a floating PV, how does the bifacial PV receive solar irradiance on the bottom surface, considering the tilt angle and having a water body below?
The panel is elevated slightly at an angle from the water, and the water is a reflective medium. So when sunlight hits the water, it will be reflected back to the bottom of the bifacial panel. And also, to that point, water is a good reflective surface. So that's why bifacial applications for loading PV is a very good option.
All right. And I think this question can be taken up by either Dr. Kedar or Ms. Shanza. Do we have any validated studies about cost effectiveness of agri PV plants?
Dr. Kedar, do you want to do it, or do you want me to do it?
We can both do. If you know some better study than mine, sure, audience will get benefited. Yeah. So yes, there are some studies available, and you can just go through the Google Scholar, and then you can definitely find some. Yeah.
So most of the papers that I have done, I do include the financial analysis as well, the LCOE and LCOA, which is the levelized cost of electricity and levelized cost of agriculture, while doing my study. There are some studies which are available, like some experimental sites, but they are really few. And the thing is, the experimental sites are not many for the investigation. So this is one of the problem. Like in UK, we don't have any published paper based on any experimental site study. So this was a problem when I was doing my research. So yes, there are studies available which do consider the levelized cost and the financial aspect as well, but it is quite limited.
All right. I think there's another question which either of you can take up again. We are getting a lot of questions on agri PV. So, agrivoltaics around the globe cause a serious climate change and lead to climate disaster. So, what is your take on that, Dr. Mehta?
Yeah, I think I read that question. And somebody also compared that with, let's say, covering the whole desert with the solar panels, and that will change the temperature or the climate. I think it is very important to understand that what kind of a scale we are talking about for agri PV. If you talk about agri PV in developing world, especially, let's say, the India or Central Asia or Africa, where the small to medium scale farms or farmers are having a maturity compared to let's say the European farms, where they have hectares or acres of land for farming. I think right now we are talking about the small to medium scale farmers, and the farms where agri-PV will be within the 20 kilowatt peak to, I don't know, 100 kilowatt peak. So we are talking about the small scale agri-PV system, which will give a better benefit to farmers, to generate the high value crops, generate the more income, at the same time providing electricity on site for running their pump and establishing the sustainability on the farm. So if we do that in a small scale, I would say that's not the big problem. And right now, we are not telling that all farmland or all land on the global level should be covered with the agri-PV. That definitely change some or initiate some climate change or temperature drop. But I think your question is more towards the global scale, but my research or my vision is to do the small scale thing to help the farmers. I hope that answered your question.
I would also like to add, like, because of the presence of agrivoltaics, there is a development of microclimate due to which the temperature is regulated. So if there is only PV, there is loss of the temperature of the soil is much higher as compared to when there is APV. So if there is APV, the temperature is quite regulated. So the crops, they help to reduce the temperature of PV. At the same time, the PV helps the crop to regulate the temperature which is required by the plants, especially in the places which are at higher latitude. So it is actually beneficial for both plants and the crop, and it actually overall regulates the temperature overall. Like, it doesn't contribute that much towards climatic uh, conditions, like adverse in the climatic condition, as it does in contributing to regulating the temperature of the earth.
All right, Shanza, thank you for that response. Now we'll only be take up the last two questions for today. We have a hand raised by Mr. Narendra Mathur. Yes, Mr. Narendra, you can unmute yourself and speak. Mr. Narendra, can you hear us?
Let's move to the next hand.
Okay. Then another question is by Mr. S.C. Agarwal. Yes, Mr. Agarwal, you can unmute yourself and speak. Else, you can share your question in the chat.
I am working for the I'm trying to achieve net zero goal in my village. So, is there any financial assistance and all that which can be had from ISA? My village is near to Haryana, in Haryana.
Sir, we can take this question offline. This is for the dissemination of Solar Compass and the information. So you can write to us at info@isa.int and we'll be happy to help you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you to all our panelists for all those responses. Let us now move to our next segment. To close today's webinar, we are honored to have Mr. Ashish Khanna, the Director General of the International Solar Alliance, for his closing remarks. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Anchal. Thank you, Dr. Gurleen and other panelists. Wonderful to hear. I was just listening to last 5-10 minutes of a lot of very interesting comments. I first want to say that the Solar Compass for us is not only a publication, it's a platform to bring the research with real world deployment. And as I'm going around the world, I'm realizing the ability of research to provide solutions, especially under a West Asia crisis, for how new technologies can bring affordable, reliable energy with a lot of potential for new job creation is the heart of policy problem in all countries. This Solar Compass special issue on integrated PV applications was a very important and relevant one. We wish to thank all the speakers, authors, and participants for this engaging and practical discussion. A few reflections that I heard, but I believe you all have discussed. First, these technologies on integrated PV applications, especially as it relates to agrivoltaics and floating solar, are not theoretical. Floating solar has already done more than 10,000 megawatts globally. Agriculture PV, I'm now talking to all the countries that are super excited as we are talking that just 1% of arable land under agriculture in India can unlock almost 1,200 gigawatts based on certain assumptions. That's the scale that we are really talking about. Food security and energy security need not be as trade-offs. It's possible to actually achieve all of them. The second aspect, which is very important, especially from the research community, is that good design and evidence are closely interrelated. So decisions around crop selection, impact on yield based on the shade, comparability, performance assessment, these are extremely important research questions that will determine the path some of these new technologies like agrivoltaics would take. I should also say one of the more important technologies will be building integrated PV, having similar kind of design and evidence implications. And finally, we hope as International Solar Alliance, we are able to bring the community of researchers across countries and across sectors together, because food, water, energy, experience across India, South Asia, Africa, it's extremely important that these experiences come together to find real-world solutions. We are committed to reinforcing the link between research, policy, and implementation, so that solar innovation is actually diffused around the global south, because that's our key role. So as I conclude, I strongly encourage all of you, the next round of Solar Compass as a complementary to the first edition is going to be on field reliability of PV modules and plants. That is, we discussed a lot about new technologies. In the next Compass, we are going to talk about what is the real world experience on the ground in terms of performance and degradation. So please stay engaged. Thank you once again for joining us today. Please continue the conversation to the next webinar and future submissions to Solar Congress. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. On behalf of ISA and the Solar Compass Initiative, thank you to all our participants and speakers for your time and engagement. Today's discussion underscored how integrated PV applications across farms, water bodies, and rural landscapes can support productivity, resilience, and smarter resource use while strengthening the bridge between research and implementation. We appreciate your participation. Have a wonderful day, and we look forward to welcoming you all in the next webinar on 22nd May. In the meantime, I would request all the speakers to turn their cameras on for a group photograph.
Even the participants. It will be really nice to have everyone in one picture.
Yes. So I think participants' camera is disabled, Dr. Gurleen.
Okay.
Yes. So maybe we can have a group photograph with the speakers.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Great.
done. Thank you.
Thank you everyone once again for joining us, and hope to see you for the next webinar next month. Thank you. Have a good day. Have a good afternoon. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.